Welcome into Texans Today. I am Will Scott. Hope you're all having a fantastic Memorial Day weekend, whether you're watching us from the Galveston Beach, which if you're Galveston, maybe you should go a little bit further south to South Padre, but that's none of my business. Who is your favorite Texan of all time? Interesting question here to start today's show. I want to hear from you down in the comment section. Who's your favorite Texan of all time? For me, it's a toss-up between Andre Johnson and J.J. Watt. I tend to lean toward J.J. Watt, but, man, it's a tough call there. Maybe some of y'all are saying DeAndre Hopkins, who was just cut by the Arizona Cardinals. And Charles Tom actually asked this question before Hop was cut. Is DeAndre Hopkins coming back to Houston? D-Hop, since being cut on Friday, has been linked to a lot of different teams. It's going to be interesting to see where he ends up. The Texans are certainly maybe a dark horse here for D-Hop's next team. He is one of the greatest players in franchise history, second only behind Dre in receiving yards, 8,600, 54 touchdowns, 632 receptions in 110 games played. The former first-round pick out of Clemson played 7 seasons with the Houston Texans. Now, the Texans do have some depth now at wide receiver, and they have some young guys. So kind of the same thing when you're talking about maybe Harden back to the Rockets, is you don't want to stunt the growth of some of those young, talented players like Nico Collins, John Mechie, Tank Dell, Xavier Hutchinson. But I am all for bringing DeAndre Hopkins back to H-Town, because I think he can make some of those young guys even better. I mean, they can learn from one of the greatest wide receivers of this era. Plus, when you're talking about a rookie quarterback, you can never have enough weapons for a young quarterback like CJ Stroud. Give him DeAndre Hopkins, and you have a really talented wide receiver room with D-Hop, Nico, Robert Woods, Tank Dell, Xavier Hutchinson, Noah Brown, John Mechie. That's maybe one of the most loaded wide receiver rooms in the AFC. Producer Coop is laughing. I don't know why he's laughing. That receiver room would be elite. Do you want to bring back DeAndre Hopkins? Y for yes, N for no, down in the comment section. Let me know. Do you want to bring D-Hop back to the 713? I would be fine if they didn't. I'd also be absolutely thrilled if they did. I feel good about where the receiver room is at. And it's funny because after Brandon Cooks got traded, I think a lot of people around the league were thinking, man, the Texans, are not going to have as good of a room next year. They have a much better room, in my opinion, when you add Tank Dell, Xavier Hutchinson, Noah Brown, Robert Woods, get John Mechie back healthy. Nico Collins going to have a breakout year. But, man, D-Hop would be a lot of fun seeing him back in a Texans uniform. Kristanova, who would be better to bring back to the Texans? D-Hop on a 2-year contract or Clowney on a 1-year prove-it deal? That's a great question. Who would I be more excited about? DeAndre Hopkins. Who makes more sense? Jadeveon Clowney, because you need some more depth on the defensive line. We're going to talk about some team needs here in a second. But if you can get Clowney on a 1-year prove-it deal, probably pretty cheap, he can play opposite side of Will Anderson. You're going to have a talented defensive line, I think, in that scenario. So I would say Clowney actually makes more sense when you're talking about the fit there. Appreciate the question. That's a good one. Devin, what's up, man? Will CJ Stroud's rookie season be better than Deshaun Watson's rookie season? Watson had D-Hop and Andre Johnson, but no offensive line. CJ has an O-line, but his weapons are yet to be determined. I don't think Deshaun had Andre. I'll have to fact check that. But yeah, he had D-Hop and he had some weapons. Deshaun Watson was having a phenomenal rookie year before the ACL tear. This guy was running away with Rookie of the Year. So it's going to be tough to kind of say it's going to be better than Deshaun's rookie year, but I think CJ Stroud is surrounded, like you said, with some weapons. He has a good offensive line, I think a better offensive line than Deshaun had. So it's going to be interesting to see, but I think C.J. Stroud's going to have a really good rookie year, but a better rookie year than Deshaun was having before the ACL tear, I'm not sure about that. Hayden, do you think Nico Collins will have a big year? Yeah, I think Nico Collins is going to have a breakout year. When you're looking at articles talking about breakout year candidates, Nico Collins is always going to be featured on there when you're talking about those guys from across the league. Nico being the number one wide receiver, being a top target for CJ Stroud, I think he's going to have over 1,000 receiving yards this season. Book it. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you want more free Houston Texans videos. If you're all about the Houston Texans, you've certainly come to the right place. Be sure to subscribe if you want more free Texans content. Evan, what's up, man? Biggest needs. Good question. There certainly was a lot of needs that they filled during the draft. They needed a center. They got two of them, Juice Scruggs and Jarrett Patterson. They needed a wide receiver. They got two in Tank Dell and Xavier Hutchinson. They needed a quarterback. They got one, CJ Stroud. They needed an edge rusher. They got one in Will Anderson. So when you're talking about the Texans as a whole right now, I think they're pretty set on offense. But taking a look at some other needs, a defensive line, linebacker, and corner depth is, I think, the biggest needs right now on this Texans team. But I'm curious to hear from y'all down in the comment section. What is the biggest team need on the Texans right now? Personally, I think they could still use some more depth for DeMeco Ryans on defense, but let me know, what is the biggest team need on the Texans right now? Next question, appreciate it. Draft position aside, who should be this team's center? Jarrett Patterson or Juice Scruggs? I watched the film. I'm team Patterson. Also, I think Tank Dell is going to have a great season. I agree with you. I think Tank Dell is going to be fantastic this year. He's actually a dark horse to maybe be the leading wide receiver on this team just because of the chemistry that him and CJ Stroud are developing right now. In terms of starting center, you can add Quessenberry to that conversation as well. I don't think he's going to get the job. In fact, he might be a cut candidate. I'm going to say Juice Scruggs, your second-round pick. Patterson was later in the draft. I really like Patterson as well. I'm going to say Juice Scruggs right now. But I really like Patterson as well. He's going to be a great backup center potentially. Dallas Hater, this must be producer Coop's burner. DeMeco Ryans for Coach of the Year. I'll say this. When you're talking about Coach of the Year, guys, winners, most of them, heavy majority, obviously, are with playoff teams that maybe surprisingly made the playoffs. If the Texans make the playoffs next year, and in my record prediction video, I have them going 9-8, so being in that conversation at the very least, DeMeco Ryans will be the unanimous Coach of the Year in year one if he can lead the Texans to the playoffs. But even if he doesn't lead the Texans to the playoffs, gets 7 or 8 wins, is at least in the conversation late in the season for a wild card spot or maybe even the division, he is absolutely going to get some votes and be in that conversation and should be in that conversation. He's taking over a football team that has been terrible the last 3 years. Evan Simmons saying, sign Frank Clark. Ethan Simmons, excuse me. I don't think the Texans are a realistic destination when you're talking about Frank Clark, but again, I think you could use some help on the defensive line. Taking a look at this current depth chart, it certainly looks better with Will Anderson. You got Sheldon Rankins, who you sign in for agency. Malik Collins is a good player for you. Jonathan Grenard. Frank Clark, man, would be awesome. And I'll say this, I think a lot of people would be surprised if the Texans got Clark. He's one of the better guys available in free agency at any position, especially defensive line. But Frank Clark, I'm sure he'll be looking to go to a more established team, a contender. But Nick Caserio certainly shocked the world by signing a Devin Singletary and a Dalton Schultz. We'll see if he can do the same in free agency. There's still some good guys available like Frank Clark. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, youtube.com/Texans TV. We're going to continue to get you guys more free Houston Texans content. Also, be sure to follow me on Twitter at WillScott44. If you did not get a question on this mailbag, no worries. Be sure to DM me on Twitter at WillScott44. Ask me anything on my Twitter.